Okay, Lord Humongous. He's impatient tonight, so I've decided to start just a little earlier. Rafi should be coming on in about 5 minutes, so we'll wait for him. The golf didn't go well, Lord Humongous. Uh, yeah, I don't have too many ambitions anymore for golf. I reached the peak of my golf career back when I was in my 20s. So right now I'm just going downhill. I'm in a bit of a slump right now, so I didn't play very well. Played the first 7 holes pretty well, and then it went downhill from there, but it doesn't matter. Quit addiction. He's in Mongolia. That's pretty far away. I hope you got, it looks like you got good Wi-Fi connection there, internet connection in Mongolia. We got Zoltan Varadi. I wonder if it's Zoltan. I don't think it's Zoltan who talks about from Credit Suisse, who talks about the repo. You see Billy's here today. Billy Boy. Rory Paul, greetings from Mexico. Do you think Phil will win the PGA? I think someone that people are not expecting might come through, like Kevin Streelman. He might win. But I watched a little bit before I turned it off now because we're going to do the live stream. But Phil Mickelson and Brooks Koepka looked pretty nervous in the first few holes. It's not going to be easy. Wales calling. Dilwyn Roberts. Hi, Dilwyn. Chris from Melbourne. So it must be pretty early in Australia. Yeah, Mark Gutierrez, as long as you had fun golfing. I have more fun when I play better, but yeah, no, it's nice being out. It's nice being out playing golf. The weather wasn't too bad. Today it's raining again. We've had a really bad spring here in the UK. It's been pretty cold and wet and miserable. I see that in South Carolina, it's 30 degrees Celsius, which is about 85, I guess, or a little more Fahrenheit. Oh, there he is. He just woke up. Monday morning, almost 6 a.m. in Australia, in Sydney, or I think he's in Sydney, Chris. Did he say Sydney or Melbourne? Melbourne, okay. Melbourne, Victoria, state of Victoria. Larry Farris from Texas. John McKay says hello. Rob, oh, here we go. Rafi is coming on.
Hello.
Hi, Rafi. We started a little earlier, so yeah, we're just waiting for you. It doesn't matter. We had Lord Humongous was impatient. He said, "Oh, where are they?" So I logged in. There's Rafi, everyone.
Hello.
Directly from the Golan Heights. So how are you, Rafi? I guess you're not seeing any action over there, like down in the south of the country.
No. The non-Jews are Druze, and they don't really bother anybody. So we get along pretty well, and nothing goes on here.
Great. That's good. So yeah, I was reading Rafi's weekend report. I read most of his reports. They're very good. So there's a lot to talk about. I think I've seen people talking about Basel III. I've spoken about it several times in the last couple of weeks, but people seem to want to know a little bit more. What do you see about Basel III? I know Alistair McLeod has done good work on that.
It's not something that I really follow that intensely, but I mean, I read McLeod and I try to simplify him because he speaks like a banker. I mean, he's a banker, and his language and his thought patterns can get a little bit confusing sometimes. But the basic thing, as I understand it, is that Basel III will essentially make gold derivatives not something that you can build more liabilities off of. You can build liabilities off of physical gold, but not gold derivatives. So that takes away most of the incentive for banks to trade these derivatives to build leverage off of. So he thinks that they're going to close most of their positions, and it'll be a lot less liquid in the gold derivatives market. And you could have much better physical price discovery on that, or much more immediate. I don't know exactly what's going to happen. I don't think anybody really does. I guess we'll find out.
Yeah. Michael Warhaft is asking, how strong is the shekel? Is it better than gold?
No, it's not. The shekel is strong relative to the dollar, and it's getting stronger. But that's because government spending in America and the U.S. is so much more horrific than in Israel. Because I guess in Israel we're kind of Jewy about spending money, and we don't really rely on bailouts because we don't really trust anybody. So that makes the shekel a little bit stronger. But essentially, it follows the dollar. It's not really that different.
Yeah, I read something that Israel doesn't have that much gold reserves, and
That's
that
none.
the last time they had some was maybe in the 60s or 70s.
Yeah, I don't even remember. The last time I checked the balance sheet, they have no gold. And they haven't had in a very long time. They have dollar reserves, and that's what they rely on. It's a very America-centric mentality here, and it's not healthy.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's the same like in Brazil, for example. Most
Mhm.
people that have been able to save some wealth, they like having dollars, dollar assets, because they think the dollar is a good currency. And it is relative to the Brazilian currencies that we've had. So there's very little um, awareness of precious metals in Brazil, even though I've been acquiring a lot of Brazilian silver coins from the 19th century, and they're really great. So we did have sound money once, but it was a long time ago. So we've got a super chat here from Super Seamster Suing Show. Thank you. And he says, I heard Rafi the other day on Wall Street Silver. He knows. Thanks. I'm going to be on Wall Street Silver on Tuesday. Uh, so
Yeah,
I haven't listened to your interview yet. Was it with Jim and Ivan?
yeah. Jim, and I think there was a Lionel Justo.
Lee
Right?
Justo, I think.
Lee
Yeah.
Justo.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get them all confused, but they're all good
Yeah.
guys.
Yeah, they are. And I've interviewed them on my channel, and I see that I'm just going to share it here quickly. Where is it? Wall Street Silver Reddit group. They are almost up to 82,000 silverbacks, which is pretty good. I think they broke 80,000 the other day, but we still need to keep growing. I think the silver squeeze movement is really interesting. I think and we just need to keep it going, keep stacking as much as we can. And I think you mentioned that what the BIS is trying to do with Basel III, maybe unknowingly, or maybe they have a ulterior motive of bringing the system down, is akin to a silver squeeze movement, because they're gonna if they do what they're saying they're gonna do, they're gonna drain a lot of paper supply.
Yeah, that's what Alistair McLeod thinks they're going to do. I'm not even sure they realize what they're doing. I don't. I mean, these people usually, it brings me back to like Atlas Shrugged, the Ayn Rand's book, and she
Yeah.
described the people at the top as being the 0 point between warring sides, where they just agree on some guy who's going to lead things that has no personality or convictions in any way. And that's kind of how I suspect these people are. I don't think they really know what they're doing or saying. They're just enjoying this power as some kind of compromise between warring factions. But
Yeah.
I don't think any of them have any idea what they're doing or what the consequences of it will be.
Yeah, they're called the moochers, I think. Yeah,
Mhm.
and they're always very dismissive of people like us who look at the facts and try to say to them, look, if you keep doing this, and they say, oh, forget it. I remember I went about 15 years, maybe a little longer, 16 years. I went to a libertarian alliance, like a English Libertarian Alliance speech in central London after work. And the guy who was speaking there was a guy called Sean Gabb, who led the alliance. And funnily enough, Boris Johnson was there at the time. He was a journalist, and he spoke. And there was another guy there, Samuel Britton, who used to be, I think he died recently. He was an economist for the FT, very Keynesian. And after the speeches and stuff, uh, people talked, and I went up to him and showed him a Bank of England note with a promise to pay the bearer. And I said, they don't pay you with anything. Don't you think this is a problem? And he looked at me as if I was like, crazy. And he said, oh, and a few years later, of course, the whole system came down. So I think Samuel Britton, Boris Johnson, people like that, they're the moochers, they're the politicians, and they do things without thinking. So we've got another super chat from Danny Dan. Thank you. What's Rafi's opinion on the Perth Mint, US Mint, lack of silver, question mark?
Well, my opinion, well, there was recently a video that came out from Rob Keats, who's one of our guys. I would call him the accountant of the silver squeeze movement.
Yeah.
He's really good at numbers, and he says that according to their annual filings, if you look deep enough into it, they're running a fractional reserve unallocated silver game. And I was sort of listening to the video offhandedly while I was making dinner, so I didn't really follow it 100%, but I would recommend watching that video if you want to know the numbers.
Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
But what I think, I mean, I don't mess with unallocated, because what you're basically trying to do is you're playing a game of chicken, and you're trying to track the silver price and then eventually get it delivered to you just in time before the monetary system collapses. And I don't want to play that timing game, because if the monetary system does collapse in the way that we think that it will, then an unallocated account, or maybe even a pool allocated account, won't do you much good, because there's nowhere they're going to be able to send it to you, in the middle of a currency collapse. So just avoid it. I mean, whether it's a scam or not, I don't really have much of an opinion. I don't think it really matters, because the whole idea of the thing is not going to work.
Yeah, I watched that video, and basically what Rob said, and he had help because he's like an auditor, and he had help from an accountant in London who's originally from South Africa. And to sum it up really succinctly, since 2018, the Perth Mint has been running like a bank, a fractional reserve bank, but with precious metals, gold and silver. So right now they're short, as of last year, 2020, the last report, they're short over $1 billion of unallocated. So they lent out $1 billion worth of gold and silver that they don't have. And the reason they don't know whether it's how much is gold and silver is because the report is not really suitable for international accounting standards. They don't like separate the assets. They just say, well, we're short over $1 billion of precious metals. So yeah, they spoke about the US and the Canadian Mint. They said they're not running like a fractional reserve like the Perth Mint. So I couldn't talk about the US Mint or the Royal Canadian Mint, nor the UK Mint. The Royal Mint in the UK, they do provide what they call digi gold and digi silver. I think that is unallocated. I don't recommend people do that. And they also provide a service where you can buy the physical gold and silver from the Royal Mint, and they'll store it for you. I don't trust them. I would have them ship it to me rather than keep it with them. And I made a video this morning, and I usually don't make a video on Sunday, but yesterday I was out all day, And so I decided to make a video. And I said in the video that Gold Investments, who I have a promo code for, Maneco64, can find details below in the description. They have plenty of silver and gold. And how come? Well, because they, besides having good relationship with wholesalers and mints, because they've been in business for 40 years, they have a lot of clients, and they have clients that are not involved in the silver squeeze. They're selling maybe gold and silver because they've had it for so long, and they might be elderly and they might need the money. So they're okay for supply. If you don't want to wait, they'll ship it the next day, maybe 2 days in the UK, and they'll ship it abroad as well. We just need to work out the cost.
Mhm.
So how easy? I guess it's not easy to get silver or gold in Israel. You told him that before, right?
No, it's very difficult, but that's a good thing. I mean, it depends how you look at it. The harder it is to get, that means the less people, the fewer people that have it, the more valuable it'll be in a country where the supply is lower.
Yeah.
When it becomes money again. Well, but I am picking up. I made an order almost 3 months ago, around just after what was it? Silver Squeeze is February, March, April, May. Yeah, so I made it about late February. I made a silver order with a few other people, and I'm picking it up in a lot in a few weeks, and hopefully there won't be any rockets on the highways or riots, and I can get down all the way. I have to go all the way from the tip top north of the country all the way down south to pick it up, because that way I avoid the VAT, and yeah, it's very difficult.
Brian saying Royal Mint DigiGold is allocated. It may be, Brian, but I spoke actually to the Royal Mint a few weeks ago, and they said that you can't take delivery of DigiGold or DigiSilver. So even though they say it's allocated, it could be pool allocated. I'm not sure. I think the best thing is to get physical. And Rafi, could we maybe go over as well something that's really technical, but I think is affecting the market quite a bit? It's the reverse repo situation. I saw you talked about it today, and there's an article today as well. I don't know if you might have seen it about
Which
the Fed.
one?
It's on Zero Hedge. It says Fed prepares to go direct with liquidity. Don't know if you saw
Okay.
that the Fed may take over the repo market. So here we go. So maybe you want to talk about what you said, and then we can look at this as well.
I didn't see that article, but it looks interesting.
Yeah.
Did you read it? What's the crux of it?
Yeah, because they mentioned that JP Morgan basically recently or last 2019, they just put their hands up and said, we don't want to provide liquidity or, to the repo market. And that's why they had the repo crisis when rates went up to 10%. And now this guy, Christopher Whalen, he's a very good analyst. I think he even worked for the New York Fed. He's saying that there's another analyst who's saying that the Fed might just take over the repo market and put the primary dealers aside. I speculated last week that the Fed might have to start doing QE directly. This is almost like doing QE directly, but this is more in the repo market.
Well, I mean, I don't have like a doctorate in financial plumbing or anything, and it's hard for me to understand what exactly is going on here. It just seems crazy, and these humongous numbers and all these regulations that everyone's trying to skirt around because the whole system doesn't make any sense. But the way I'm imagining it, or the way I see it, like if there was a repo crisis in September 2019 where rates went to to 10%, then a reverse repo crisis would be because there's too many reserves, and all of a sudden interest rates drop through the floor, and maybe they hit negative 10%, and then that bleeds into the commodity complex, and then everything like warps into extreme backwardation in a few minutes. I don't really know what's happening. I just see that the reverse repos are going up like 20-30 billion dollars a day, and they were like 360 billion. And usually they skyrocket around quarter ends or year ends, but this is just regular
Oh
average
yeah.
day in a quarter. So I don't know what's going to happen in at the end of June. Right, at the end of June, you have the Basel III regulations, the NTSB, whatever that is, kicking in Europe, which could affect the paper gold market, and you have the reverse repo at a quarter end, which is already at $360 billion on a regular day. So how much is going to be then? I don't know. You've got like some pretty volatile stuff coming in for this quarter end, and
Yeah.
who knows what the CPI inflation rate is going to be. I mean, it seems to me like we're in the middle of a seriously boiling pressure cooker, and everything's about to blow up. I just don't know how it's going to happen. It just doesn't seem right to me.
We got a super chat from SK. Thank you, SK. I was told by a gold seller the mint will begin putting chips in some new gold coins. Any thoughts? Do you mean which mint do you mean, SK? I guess you're in the US. Well, they could put anything they want in the gold coins to track it. That's probably a good thing. I won't be too concerned because I've been stacking for quite a few years. But for maybe new people, you can always buy. You don't have to buy gold straight from the mint. You can buy secondhand gold from bullion dealers. That's how I would avoid it if they're going to put anything in it. What do you think, Rafi?
That thought actually never occurred to me.
Yeah,
Um,
I don't think you should.
like if
Yeah,
they put something in it, you could just melt it down and recast it and get rid of the chip. I mean,
yeah,
it
good
sounds kind of
point.
out there.
Yeah, yeah. Chris Conman, thank you for your super chat. Can you explain what the Great Reset is? What will it look like on the other side? Thanks. I'll go first, and then you can go, Rafi.
Sure.
The Great Reset has got nothing to do really with the currency reset. It's what the World Economic Forum wants to put down our necks, and you know they are using the excuse of the crisis that we've had since last year, basically to bring forth like what they call the fourth industrial revolution, which is going to be a horrific world if they succeed, where machines and AI will be in charge. Everyone will be tracked. No one's going to eat meat, and everyone's gonna yeah, it will be like a dystopian world, according to Klaus Schwab, who, and I've written about this back in June about the World Economic Forum. His father was a major industrialist in Germany in the 1930s, and 1940s. So you can imagine the time in Germany. And
Yeah.
when the World Economic Forum kicked off in the early 70s, it was called the European Economic Forum, or European Management Group, sorry. And one of the major supporters of Klaus Schwab, young Klaus Schwab, was a guy called Herman Abs, who was a director of the biggest bank, commercial bank in the Third Reich, Deutsche Bank. So that's the kind of people that I think are in charge of the World Economic Forum. And you've got Christine Lagarde, Mark Carney, you've got BlackRock, people from the IMF, all working with these people, all the central banks. And yeah, they might join a digital currency with that to control people. I think it's a nightmare, and I hope they don't succeed. Anything to add here, Rafi, about that?
Yeah. I take a more optimistic view of this. You could flip it on its head and say it's pessimistic, but there's a Yiddish saying. It goes, "Mensch tracht und Gott lacht," and man plans and God laughs. So we knew, Mises knew when the Soviet Union wouldn't last, because it was a centrally planned economic thing, and China's real descent into communism didn't last that long. Maybe 1948 to 1962 it stopped, and now they're just communists in name. But these central plans, they don't work, and the bigger they get, the harder they fall. We can go back to what Murray Rothbard said: the final defense against central planning is the destruction of the monetary medium, of the currency. And if they make a central bank digital currency, then it would be so easy to get rid of it as fast as possible that it would just supercharge hyperinflation, make it that much easier for people to fight back. I mean, the bigger the central plan and the grander it is, and the more control they want, the more fragile it is, and the easier it is to tip over. I mean, we know this culturally from the story of the Tower of Babel. You know, that's the Bible saying you can't have this central plan. That's what the story is. It's central planning doesn't work, and when you try it, the tower falls over, and people break up into different languages, and that's it. It's over. So that's what's going to happen again. It's the central plan is not going to work. We're going to destroy the money before that, and then we'll break up again, because this whole the towers of Babel collapse. That's what they do.
That's right. Gary, Nigel Draper, thank you for your super chat. I did see that. Yeah, and for me, the best reset would be for the world to become a little bit more honest, to be more transparency, and by honesty, I mean sound weights and measures. And I don't care what kind of money or currency you use, as long as it's one that is a free market one, and is sound and it's honest. Yeah, of course, you're always going to have people out there who are not going to be honest, but hopefully that won't be the people in charge. Because right now no one's guarding the guards. The guards are are running like wild. The people who are supposed to oversee the system, but it might end up very fractured, and we will see people bartering for some time. And I think that's one of the reasons why having silver is good, gold as well, but silver is even better in terms of bartering, I think, because of the lower value, even though some people think we could see silver. I think silver could outperform, but I'm not sure if we're going to go 1-to-1 like a lot of people think. So
But 1-to-1, like a silver coin would be worth a gold coin? I don't see
that. Yeah, there are some people who see that. I don't see that. Steve Ross Holmes, thank you for your super chat. BIS motivation: since Basel III, the central banks have been collecting gold. A revaluation of gold would be great for central banks. No, that's a question. Do you want to answer that? And then I'll chime in, Rafi.
A revaluation of gold would be great for central banks? No, that's what they're trying to avoid. If central banks revalue gold, it would have to be, look, it happened in 1933, 1934, but only after FDR was able to confiscate the entire gold supply, or whatever he was able to confiscate of it. But this time, if that were to happen, it won't be a central bank doing it. It will be the free market doing it, like Daniel Oliver says. It would be the free market bringing the gold price up to back the entire size of the Fed's balance sheet with the gold that's on its balance sheet, which is about $35,000 an ounce. And it would be the free market pulling a central bank in their direction. We got to stop seeing these people as all powerful geniuses. They're not. They're out of their league. They don't know what they're doing. And
I think I think the Russians and the Chinese know what they're doing a bit more in terms of the monetary side of it. If you ask any central banker in the West or politician in the West about gold, they don't even understand what we're talking about. But I remember back in 2005 or 6, Bill Murphy and GATA, they had like a big conference in the GATA Klondike conference, and they had like a close advisor to President Putin at the conference, and they explained to him how the gold manipulation worked. And I think, and you look at when Russia started buying gold, it was in around 2006 after that conference. So I think there are a few people out there that are clever enough, and that's why they hate Putin and Russia. I think that's why they try to blame everything on him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it seems that Putin does know a little bit more of what he's doing in the monetary sphere than, say, Jay Powell or anything like that. I mean, because these American academics are so far up their own theories that they forget where they are. They're in like some dark tunnel. Whereas I think Russia is still, or Putin is still aware of, because he came from a KGB collapse. How these things can end, and he at least comes from a system that has already collapsed, so he has that wisdom.
Yeah. Alias Jones, thank you for your super chat. What is the significance of a full versus empty Fort Knox? Any thoughts, Rafi?
Oh yeah, there's a big difference. So and one would be better short term, and one would be better long term. I mean, I think it would be better for everyone long term, meaning that if there was no gold in Fort Knox at all, because then the dollar would not be able to be rescued, and we'd have to, the United States and everyone who relies on the dollar would have to descend into private currencies, which longer term would be much more stable, where you have real private competing monies. They wouldn't be able to back the dollar with any gold if there's no gold in Fort Knox. But if there is, then yeah, it would be chaotic until they back the remaining dollar supply with whatever gold they have, and then they would be able to save the dollar as a medium of exchange. But then eventually they'd start inflating it again, and I don't know how long that would take, maybe decades. But our children, our grandchildren, our great grandchildren will have to deal with that problem. So I'm kind of hoping there's nothing there, and then we can just go back to gold and silver directly. That would be really difficult, and more chaotic, but better in the long term.
Yeah, I personally think they might have the gold at Fort Knox. The only problem is that they've leased out most of it, so some of it has probably gone out the door, and a lot of it has been leased out many times over. So legally, they probably own almost nothing, I would say. And that golden Fort Knox, guess who has the claim for it? You can look at it on the Fed's balance sheet. It's the Federal Reserve. They've got gold certificates that add up to the amount that the U.S. Treasury has, mainly because when they confiscated the gold in 33, it was each regional Federal Reserve bank that took the gold. So if you lived in New York, you had to take it to the local Fed, to the New York Fed, your gold. If you lived in San Francisco, you took it to the San Francisco Fed. So it was the Fed that actually did the dirty job of confiscating the gold for the Treasury. And I think they had to issue the certificates because under the law, it would be like stealing. So they had to have like a claim on it. The Treasury would be stealing from the banks because the Fed banks are private. It's kind of screwed up. But we got another super chat here from Yannick Beaupre from Canada. What do you make of Binance and Coinbase suspending the right of crypto users to use their cryptocurrencies to stop bloodbath? Free market ? I'll give my opinion, then Rafi can give his. When these markets, it's not just the crypto exchanges, but like last year in March when everything was, all hell was breaking loose in the financial markets, I had some options positions on the VIX, and a lot of times the exchange or the broker, they freeze the trading system because it becomes so volatile that they could get wrong-footed. So there's a bit of that. Maybe there is a little bit of I'm not sure if they're trying to stop the bloodbath. I don't think an exchange can do that. So that's how I see it.
In stopping the crypto bloodbath?
Yeah, because I think last week when Bitcoin first fell, some exchanges was hard to deal in the exchanges. They had technical problems. And some people think they stopped because they didn't want people selling more cryptocurrencies. I'm not sure.
I don't know. I can't understand. Maybe there's something wrong with it, but I can't understand how people don't see that this is just a crazy bubble of nothing weirdness. I mean, they say it's money, but then you have people trading it. People, like, you don't trade money, you use money. It's not.
That's right.
Nothing about this makes any sense. I mean, you've got all these weird names for these new coins that come out every few days, and people trade them, and a joke comes out, and then it's Dogecoin, and then Musk tweets something like. There's nothing going on here. It's just like a crazy schizophrenic market that has no signals, and I don't understand why people are even trading this.
Yeah, and money as well. We don't leverage and trade money, and like they do in the cryptocurrencies. But anyway, I've seen someone mention executive order 111, well, quadruple 10. I know a little bit about that. That was JFK about the silver certificates, issuing silver certificates. Some people think that's why he was assassinated. I'm not too sure that was the reason why, because um, those silver certificates and the executive order, I'm not too sure if it was a real threat for the Fed, and that's why he was assassinated. I think there's a lot of other reasons. The Bay of Pigs, the Cuban exiles weren't very happy with what he did at the Bay of Pigs. Alan Dulles, I think he was the head of the CIA who was sacked by JFK. He wasn't happy. The mafia wasn't happy with JFK because they dealt with, I think his father, JFK's dad, worked closely with them. And Robert Kennedy, who became the attorney general, he went after the mafia. So he had a lot of enemies. Any views on that executive order? Do you know anything about that, Rafi?
I don't know much about it.
Yeah.
But of all presidents, I would say JFK. I have a lot of respect for him, and it could arguably be said literally that he saved the world. I don't know if that's true, but it's if any president ever saved the entire world, it was JFK by stopping the nuclear exchange, in 1962. That was a big deal.
Yeah.
And whatever mistakes he made, I forgive him if that's actually what happened.
Yeah, the Cuban Missile Crisis. Yeah, that was a big one. So Bitcoin will be 5 million, someone says. Well, we'll change subjects. So let's see. Oh yeah, I wanted to show look a little bit at the gold chart here. I have a gold chart here, Rafi. It's a monthly one. And you can see how, if you look back, to like 2007, there's very few months where we see such a big move. And I think it's kind of like a stealth bull market, like a climbing a wall of worry. I think people are still not very convinced. What do you think of the technicals?
I think the technicals. I think I put up a few charts in my weekend reports. I mean, I don't look at technicals that closely. But what I do see is that the downtrend that's been in place since August is being challenged now, and it's at the 50-week moving average, and it's the same line, I think. Yeah, so it's we have like a triangle forming, and it looks like we just broke through it and last week. It's a good sign. But I don't put all that much stock into technical patterns, but I pay attention to them as possible signals, and then I trade in and out a little bit based on technical signals sometimes. But it's just something to help triangulate a little bit more precisely where the turns might be and
Yeah.
increase your chances. That's all.
Yeah, and I recommend for people who like trading to look at Rafi's newsletter, The Endgame Investor. It's on Seeking Alpha. I think he charges a couple of $100 a year or so. And if you are into trading, I think it's a good thing. I noticed last week you spoke, I think it was Thursday, You lighten up on Newmont Mining at $74. And
Yeah.
even though it did trade higher after that, we closed the week at like 73.50. You took some cash off, some chips off the table. I think, yeah, your strategy of being unemotional is good, and some of you might be interested in that.
Yeah, a little bit, a little bit. I'm not bearish on Newmont or anything, but
Yeah, yeah, I
we
think
we
you.
we we bought into it much earlier at a much lower price as it was going down. It
Yeah,
feels when you trade, you want to kind of go the opposite of what you're feeling. If you're feeling sick and you really don't want to buy it, then you should buy it.
yeah,
If you're
yeah.
feeling great and you don't want to sell it, you should probably sell some.
Mm.
Always go against what you're feeling, and then that kind of evens you out.
Just want to show the Fed's balance sheet here, because I think we're almost up to 8 trillion now. I think last week we got up to, yeah, 7,793 billion, which is just under 8 trillion. And if you guys, look at where it was prior to the financial crisis, it was basically, if you go back, let's go here. So basically, in 17 years, it's gone up tenfold. And I think gold was around 400 or 500 back then. So I would say gold should be at least, 5,000, 6,000 if it wants to follow the Fed's balance sheet. Any view on that, Rafi?
Yeah, I think we're in the end days of the Fed's balance sheet here, because high inflation's like this. When you get to this point in monetary abuse, things don't stay linear anymore. They kind of go quickly. So at what point there's going to be like a eureka moment, or what do they call it? A Lehman moment or a Minsky moment. There's so many different terms for these things, where because even when you talk to like people on the other side, like Paul, like even let's say Paul Krugman, who's like the fiat guy of fiat guys, like he really loves it. But like you talk to him, and you say, look, Paul, is this sustainable? Can you keep going like this? So, no, eventually it's got to go down. But even guys like him know that this progression is not sustainable. It has to break down or something. But there's going to be a moment where even somebody like him realizes that this is not it's the end, and this is not going to stop now. And even he is going to pile into gold. And there's going to be a moment like that probably when food prices start spiking 10, 15, 20% a month. And that'll be it. And then everyone's going to pile in, and then it'll be the end. So
Yeah.
it's not going to be a slow progression of the balance sheet going 9 trillion, 10 trillion, 11 trillion. No, just one day it's going to go to like 20 or 30, and then it's going to be over.
So I've got something here. This is an email from one of my viewers, and this is what he said. Suggests you do a real world assessment on food prices. They're increasing rapidly here in the US, along with gas. The mega drought over Western US is very severe. Midwest crops will no doubt be rained out again. Locust plagues in food areas of Africa. Food shortages are here, going to hit very hard. And you spoke about the supply chain and all the bottlenecks, so maybe we can look into that a little bit.
Yeah. What I said, there's a lot of supply issues with the economy that economists who study just supply and demand and the concepts of economics don't really know about, because we're not in the supply chains. We're not the ones lifting the crates and transporting stuff, and we don't know how it works exactly. And definitely the politicians don't know how it works. So a counterintuitive supply issue that's happening now is the traffic jams at the ports, because of what happened at the lockdowns. With the lockdowns, basically the United States started importing a lot more and exporting a lot less. So now now you have all these traffic jams at the ports, and all these trucks are trying to get their loads, and they can't. But trucks are paid by the load. They're not paid by the hour, because you can't pay them to just sit in a line. It doesn't work that way. So now the truckers can't get their loads, so they can't get paid. So then it's not profitable for them to to drive their loads and to transport goods across the country anymore. So they're dropping out of the business, which is crimping the supply of truckers even more severely, which is lowering the supply of transportation because of the traffic jams. So you have stuff like this, and you have issues like if goods have to get from California to, let's say, Tennessee or Kansas or something, they're delivered in Long Beach from China, and they usually go on a train, but the lines to get on these trains are so long that it's more economical to get an emergency load on a truck. So the trucks are being diverted from from trains, and trains can carry a lot more than trucks. So you have all these issues that you wouldn't have thought about if you're not in the supply chain, but it's going to take a very long time for these things to be resolved. And I'm sure the Fed has no idea about any of this.
No, they don't think about the consequences, these people. And there's something that Peter Schiff spoke about last year. I think it's the Taylor Act. It might be the wrong name, but back in the 20s, or I don't know when it was a long time ago, they wanted to protect the merchant shipping in the US. So, for example, if a Chinese ship delivered goods to Seattle, let's say, and then wanted to take some goods from Seattle and take it down to LA, they couldn't do that. So that's why we have to do everything by train or trucks. So, for example, if you can't ship something from the Northeast to Florida, you can't have a ship, a vessel, a marine vessel, take the goods from Boston to Florida, for example. And the thing is that the merchant marine in the US is completely devastated. There's very few ships left. So most ships are foreign flag owned. So that's the other problem as well. America is so dependent on trucks, and there's no water transportation because of this another something that was intended to help but didn't. I think it's called the Taylor Law or something, Taylor Act. And
yeah, I remember I listened to that podcast.
Jones Act. Someone just came out. The Jones
That's it.
Act.
Yeah, it's the Jones Act.
Yeah.
So the really ironic thing about this is that one of the causes of the American Revolution, declaring independence from Britain, was the Navigation Act. The Navigation Acts, which it was some kind of it was the same kind of idea, some kind of regulation of you needed to have British ships transporting goods, and they had to be a certain amount of this, whatever. It was its own regulation for the time, but the same concept, and it really hurt the colonists, and they were really pissed off about it. And now they're doing the same things to themselves. I mean, nothing really changes. It's all the same thing over and over again. And this is just another form of Navigation Acts.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. And now it's affecting them because you have the problem with the trucks and the supply chain. So let's see if we got some more questions here. If you guys want to ask some more questions to Rafi and I, feel free. Or Rafi, if you got something else that is on your mind that you think we should know about.
What's on my mind? Well, I've got my vegetables growing in my garden. It's nice in summer, and they're starting to bloom. But the local government is after my chickens. So
yeah, someone. What's that all about? You can't have chickens? Are they not kosher?
We just had 9 chicks a few days ago. They got the municipal government was after the chickens, so I had to sacrifice. Not literally. I had to give up the male. So I put him in the town petting zoo, threw him over the fence. And that day I got 9 chicks, so we're gonna have a lot more eggs, and hopefully they'll leave me alone now. They threatened to find me, but I figured at the time when they decide they're going to find me, it's going to be like a year from now, and then I'll put it off another year or two, and I'll keep asking for extensions, and by then hyperinflation will kick in, and I'll pay the fine. It'll be a few shekels, whatever.
All right. Oh, there is something people have been asking here. What do you think about platinum? Any views on that precious metal?
Yeah, I do own some platinum, but it's more of a speculation. Platinum it's not really historically money because it was only discovered in the 19th century, I think, and so it's not really going to be a monetary metal, but it could be used as a money. It's definitely more of a chance of that happening than Bitcoin being used as money. But since it's extremely volatile, I mean, it's much more volatile than gold, so you have to be prepared for that. And I'd say if you have like a 10% position in physical gold, maybe a 1 or 2% position in platinum would be good. I wouldn't trade that metal, and it's dangerous if you have too much of it.
Yeah, and it's more like an industrial metal, so it's
Yeah.
consumed a lot. You don't have too much. The reason why it's volatile is that the stock it's the stock to the stock ratio is very low. Like it's consumed. So stock to flow ratio in gold is like 64 years of production. So it is, of course, an industrial metal, platinum. It's more used in manufacturing for catalytic converters and things like that. So someone also asked about UBI. Have you got any views on UBI? I pretty much know what your view is going to be, but if you want to tell the viewers, universal basic income.
Universal basic income, isn't that what we already have? I mean, I have it in Israel. It's called child stipends. You can call it welfare. Is basically universal basic income. It's just welfare. It gives it gives like a, what do you call it, the basic rung that if everyone, let's say if everyone's earning, like if the universal basic income is $10,000, then $10,000 isn't going to buy you much. It's just going to cause more inflation because they're going to end up printing the money to give it to everybody. So it's like a dog chasing its tail. It's like, what's the point?
Yeah, I think it will also make people a lot more dependent on the state, and maybe that's what they want as well. They don't want people questioning and being self-reliant. So I think it's a really bad thing for self-reliance. We've got another question here, a super chat from Chris Conman. Rafi, do you think the U.S. Federal government or the Treasury will ever reopen the gold window?
I like that question. That goes into that goes into my theory on what the gold window is. I mean, the gold window is still open. Okay, the gold window is open because you can take $1,880 and still buy an ounce of gold. So it's open. Now I don't want the gold window open. I want it closed. And the way we can close the gold window for good is by taking physical supply off the market. But the reason I want the gold window closed is because I don't want the dollar to buy any amount of gold. I don't want to remonetize gold because gold is money now. When you transact in dollars or pounds, you're transacting in gold because these currencies were born out of gold, and that's why they have value. So we want to not remonetize gold, but demonetize the dollar or in the pound and all these other currencies, because that way they can no longer extract any more real value by printing it. So I don't want them to establish a new gold window. I want to close it.
Yeah, and I think the gold window, I guess, at the Treasury is closed because they keep that supposed all that 8,300 ounces at Fort Knox. And the other thing about the gold window, even if they reopen it, the key point there is that you should be able to redeem your currency or claim on gold at a fixed rate. That was the important part of the Bretton Woods. the fixed rate, because you could have an open window with no fixed rate and they could still keep inflating, but then they would lose the gold. The treasury would lose the gold. But I think they're losing the gold anyway, Rafi, right now.
Do you think they're actually selling the gold in Fort Knox?
I don't think there's much left there. They're leasing it out, and a lot of it has gone. They might have some there. So
Well, if they're leasing it out, but it's still physically there, I don't think it's that hard for the government to say, look, we're just breaking all the leases and we're stealing it back if it's still physically there.
Even though they might be keeping quite a bit of the lease gold there, some of it might have to ship, because it could be a jeweler or a refiner that bought that gold that the bullion banks leased from the Fed, and then they sold it in the market. They might have to deliver some of them. They'll never like make it transparent anyway. Anything to do with gold. I think it was Bill Murphy's partner in GATA, Jerome. Is it Powell? I forgot. I always forget his first name. It's not Jerome Powell, but he said that the U.S. would come out with its nuclear secrets before it ever came out with transparency about its gold and its operations. So that's how I see it. So we've got Lily Robbins says, I read if you don't get vax, but your loved one does, you get it through saliva and other body fluids. Oh, that's about the, well, they're making a big push here in the UK for a second one. And they're using the excuse of the Indian variant to get people to do it. I was watching the golf earlier today from the States, Rafi, in South Carolina. They've got spectators again at the tournaments. Might not seem important, but I didn't see anyone wearing a mask, and I thought that was great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we have some good news here in Israel too. They're dropping it. They say, I don't know if they are. They say they're dropping all coronavirus regulations on June 1st, and I hope that means at the airports too, because then that would mean I can get out and travel again. But
yeah.
I don't know what's happening there. I'm going to see my parents for the first time in over a year and a half. They're coming here, and they had to go through this whole mishigas at the airport, and they're vaccinated, and they got I don't have a problem with anybody getting vaccinated. I'm just I don't want it forced on anybody or anybody cajoled into doing it by having their jobs threatened.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's my position.
Yeah. There's a question here from Tyja McCrary. Does collapse of credit market precede hyperinflation, or is it inverse or not correlated at all? Any views on that?
Yeah. So what happens is there's always a credit collapse when the money supply is or the money substitute supply is it slows down after a long expansion. So that creates a credit collapse, and then the Fed's response is to start it up again, is to reinflate again. So that's what happens in successive cycles, and that's what's going to happen again. There's going to be another credit collapse, but every time there's a credit collapse, the Fed has itchy trigger fingers, and they reflate even faster than before. So each credit collapse is much shorter and more extreme than the one before it. We had one in the dot-com bubble in 2000, and that lasted like 2 years, from 2000 to 2002, and the credit collapse in 2008 lasted about a year, and the one in 2020 lasted a few months or maybe even a few weeks. This next one is going to be maybe a few days, and then they're just going to blow up the whole monetary system. The next one is going to be the last one, I think.
Yeah, I think the system will blow up when the Fed tries to do something and nothing works anymore. People lose faith and confidence in their powers to save the system. Super Seamster, thank you again for your super chat. He says, damn, Mario, I swear you're on the case. Rafi's on the case too, I would say. So we got another 5 minutes or so. let's see, population control. Let's see. Is SLV practical in any way, Rafi? Any views?
Yeah, there's stuff you could do with it. I don't know if it's a scam. I would assume the silver is there. Maybe it's not. But whether it's there or not, you're not going to get any physical from it at all. But it is useful if you want to leverage the silver price and earn a whole bunch of dollars before the monetary system collapses, if that's even possible. But it's not something I recommend doing with a lot of money. If you have like some spare change, you can buy some options on SLV if you want, like way far out of the money, to see if you can see if you can really hit a home run with it. But you'd have to get out of it. You'd have to get out of those options in time and then buy physical, or else it's not gonna help you. So beyond that, there's not much use to SLV.
Yeah, I've traded precious metals options before, and I can say it's really hard to make any money going long calls and puts. And I don't think you want to go short options personally. Yeah, and it always seems to be manipulated by the bullion banks, the options right at expiry. I've had more success trading options on the bond market and also on the VIX. So yeah, but you can try. You might get lucky. The thing with options, if you buy a call or a put, you know how much you're going to lose. The only downside is that it's time limited. So it's going to run out, and you're going to lose your. You have to get the timing exact. Uh, Rafi, do you follow SILJ or? I think that's a silver
Oh, the Silver
minor
Juniors
ETF.
ETF.
Yeah, or NGDXJ. Any thoughts on that?
Those are better than SLV or GLD because they are backed by real shares of real companies that will be able to pay real dividends. So those are legitimate ETFs, and I have nothing against them. But I mean, personally, I just hold the companies instead and trade in and out of those. And you can go through GDXJ and you can find which companies are better, which ones have higher dividends, which ones have better balance sheets, which have better minds, better people behind them if you're familiar with the management. But yeah, it's okay if you want SILJ or GDXJ. I have nothing against them.
Yeah, I've done that in the past. I've also looked through the Sprott funds and also the GDXJ or HUY and see what companies are in there. And like to sometimes I like to pick, the biggest companies by market cap, and then one of the middle market cap, and then the smallest one. That's a good thing to do as well. So yeah, it takes a little bit of research. It's not that hard. All the information is public out there. Uh, so let's see. Rafi, do you like royalty companies?
Yes, I do. Well, one of the best performing stocks since the bottom has been Franco Nevada, which slingshotted off that bottom, and we've been. I made a few buys on the way down, and now we're up on it again. And some of the smaller streamers and royalty companies are doing very well. You have Metalla, and it's a good business model.
So they
You
just
get
buy a chunk of a mining company and they get like a share of the earnings. Is that?
I think they front the funding for mines, and then they get a percentage of it. I think that's how it works.
Yeah.
So it's easier for miners to work with them because they're part of the same business than to get a loan from a bank to fund it, because that's more red tape and it's just more difficult. So yeah, these they work well with mining companies, and they have a guaranteed cash flow.
Yeah, and I guess they're like a sponsor. They don't want to get involved in the business, but they want to have a participation. So
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So just one more question here before we go. I think it's in Israel. It's almost what is it? Midnight almost, is it?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, is there anywhere for us to track how much banks are lending?
how much they are lending. Yeah, you could probably, if you check the sifma.org, SIFMA, and you check their statistics, they come up with these Excel spreadsheets every now and then, and I think one of them is or maybe it's also the H.8 report out of the Fed. I mean, there's different ones. Try the H.8 report out of the Fed. That might be the one. And also H.8, I think.
Yeah.
There's also the statistics page on SIFMA that comes out with a lot of statistics about lending and bonds and all these humongous numbers.
Great, Rafi. Thank you very much. You were going to come last Sunday, but you had a religious holiday in Israel, or Jewish religious holiday. And hopefully, we'll have this again, maybe in a month's time. That seems to be a good way to do it. So any last words to the viewers?
Yeah, if this reverse repo thing blows up the next few weeks, just stay calm. And we know where things are going to end. We just don't know how we're going to get there. So hang on first and foremost to your physical coins. And if things get rough, just maybe turn off the news and then turn it back on a week later and see where we are.
Yeah, I do the same. I try to stay away from television. The only thing is I watch a little bit of golf sometimes, but that's it. Okay, thank you, everyone, and have a great rest of the weekend, and take care. Bye.
All right.
Okay.
It's good talking to you again. I haven't seen you in a while.
Yeah. Let me just end the stream here.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, I know. I've seen you.